but it was always very like people were always very discouraging, like because whenever I said something like that, people would be like, apna dekho, why do you want to care for others? I think I was more encouraged like also through Buddhism, because it encourages you to be a catalyst of change, and it also says that you alone can make a difference. Before I started the NGO, I was actually into makeup and styling and into organizing events and shoots. It's important for all of us to understand that we are not alone here in the world, on earth.
Ma'am, can you just elaborate for the listeners what is Bodhisattva and the aim and the vision you have and what change do you want to see?
Bodhisattva is an NGO for animal welfare and human welfare. My I think my vision with starting Bodhisattva was always to be like a helping hand, to help wherever I could, to be like a catalyst of change, to inspire, to instill compassion for all sentient beings. So, for people to respect and value other life forms, and to inspire them to, you know, um, make a change or be of service or participate, somewhere and in your communities to make it better. So I would say community service, it's a very important concept that maybe we don't have in India, is community support.
Mhm.
Community service and community support. Yes.
Right. Welcome, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So, how's the lockdown been treating?
The lockdown has been, I would honestly say it's been full of anxiety, ups and downs. It's also been very devastating because when you watch the news, it surely, it's really depressing to see what a lot of people were going through, and also our own anxieties that were creeping in from time to time. So it's been a tough time, but I think you took one day at a time and got through. But again, I think we are all still more privileged to
Right.
be saying that, because there are so many other people that were affected much more and severely because of the lockdown. So I think we were still better off because we're still privileged.
Right. So, ma'am, I'll start with a question, which is what
Yeah.
was the background before you stepped into the social sector?
Before I started the NGO, I was actually into makeup and styling and into organizing events and shoots. So it was more of the glamour world, and it was fun though. It was a lot of fun because you get to meet a lot of different people, and it's a bit of a creative field, so it's always makes you feel positive when you're being creative. So it was fun. Yeah.
So, what was there any particular event or person that motivated you to step into the social sector and start an NGO?
I think that throughout my life, since I was a child, there was always this thing that I wanted to be able to make a difference, or bring about some changes. But it was always very like people were always very discouraging, like because whenever I said something like that, people would be like, apna dekho, why do you want to care for others? You should first care about yourself, then care for something else. So I just thought that was really weird. And always it was, I mean, also people said that what could you alone do? One person cannot change the world. You always get those lines. So I used to feel very discouraged, like, oh, maybe I'm not, as one individual, I will not be able to make a difference. And then somehow, I was like, I think I was more encouraged, like also through Buddhism, because it encourages you to be a catalyst of change, and it also says that you alone can make a difference. So it kind of inspired me to go about and try at least. So initially, I did start volunteering with other NGOs. So that's how I started. I started volunteering with other NGOs because I wanted to be of help and be of service, and help out in whatever way I could. So I said, let me go there and see what are the obviously you have to know what issues you want to or causes that you want to be involved with.
Right.
So initially I did volunteer at a suicide prevention helpline, and I also used to Blue Cross, which is the animal welfare NGO. So I started volunteering there.
Okay, so was there also any financial restriction or fear in your mind that I like as I'm stepping in, I may not be able to earn like I was?
Of course, but luckily because my work is a lot of freelancing, so I was able to do both. You know,
Okay.
but yes, your focus does change. So slowly, slowly, because now I'm more passionate about this, so my focus does change. So now I mean, I still get to do those things. Like I get to organize events for my NGO now.
Okay.
So I mean, it's fun.
So what were the
Again,
major
it's like you get to be creative.
challenges that you faced while the NGO was its in very initial phases and while you were setting up, like the ease of setting up and the funds and
I think always the major challenge is the funding to begin with. And initially, when you start, I mean, I didn't know what all it was going to take or, how difficult it would be. So I just went in with that, thing that, no, I want to do this with that passion. And maybe I was not too practical about it initially. And when I look back at it now, like I think that if I knew of all the struggles that were there, I don't think I would maybe go forward. I would not have the courage to, take this on if I knew what all, I would have to go through or the, the ups and downs, even, the emotional ups and downs, because it's really not easy. It's
right.
an ongoing struggle for sure.
So how over a period of time, how did you ensure sustainability of the NGO?
See, ensuring sustainability for a social venture is always a struggle, unless you are well supported and you have that constant support, of people sponsoring, or that, it could be a company, it could be people. So or then again, if you're providing some services where you're going to be, in exchange for money again. So these are the only ways that you can probably be sustainable. So I would say to people who are starting up that, really take it slow, one step at a time, slowly, slowly expand your capacity and go forward. Because you cannot like just run and jump. You have to take it really slow. And it's not going to be easy. So I'm
Right.
not going to lie. It's not going to be easy. It's really, really tough to also mentally and, emotionally, and funding. Funding is the main criteria that you need to have that support to keep going. Otherwise, it can be really stressful.
Mhm. So, like for someone who's just starting and stepping into the social world, so how would you advise to go about the funding? How to approach companies? How to approach people? What is the right steps we should take?
I would say, firstly, to begin with, only when you're forming your NGO or your trust, it would be smarter to take in people who are like minded, who have the same passion for your cause, and bring in those trustees to also bring in some financial help, in the beginning at least, so that you start going, you get going. And then it takes a while till you kind of get other people involved and get companies involved. So, I mean, companies would only be involved at the level when you have your ATG, or, you can offer them some CSR activities. So it takes a while to get there. And even when you get there, it's not necessary that you are going to get the support. Because, there are a lot of times that we approach a lot of companies and we don't get the funding.
Right.
And it depends what you are asking your funding for. Like something like animal welfare and all, it's not that easy.
Right.
Maybe for a lot of human welfare, some of the projects you might get some funding. But again, for the animal welfare bit, it's a little difficult. But I don't know, as I said, the universe has been really great and we have somehow gotten through. But again, that doesn't mean that there were no struggles or there are no current struggles. There are always going to be struggles. So
So now, how long has it been um, you running the NGO?
it's been now officially at least 5 years that the
Okay.
NGO has been running. Yeah.
So in these 5 years, what's the most heartwarming moment that you've experienced?
Um, the heartwarming moments, I think, would be the very often do you see this, because the work that we're doing is like we're trying to either help animals or humans and reduce their suffering. So we are, providing them that sense of relief. And when you see that sense of relief in them, it is really heartwarming to be able to reach out. Also, I think during this whole pandemic and the crisis, it's been really heartwarming to see NGOs and people come together and help out. So it was, yeah, like as you said, watching the news, and when you see these immigrant workers going home, or when you're able to give them a meal, or even when you're able to, save an animal's life who's been suffering and he was ignored. So it's always like, I think daily you will have these moments where, you're just overwhelmed with the fact that, you were able to do this and you were able to help them. And to see the joy on their face, whether it's an animal or a human being, is always, something that I'm really grateful for.
Right. So, ma'am, like when you were starting, was there always animal welfare and human welfare, or is it one vision and then you stepped into both? And
No, I mean, for me, I always wanted to help everyone, right?
okay,
Usually, I have, deeper love and for animals, but I didn't want to exclude. I wanted to be able to do whatever I could for both, and whoever came in my environment, it could be a human or an animal. And so, initially, also when I formed the NGO, it was for both.
okay.
So we try to do our best for whatever we can, like in whichever way, in my capacity, if I'm able to reach out, I do it.
So, what has been the difficulties, especially with the animal welfare? Because, as you mentioned, that human welfare is something which companies would step in, but animal welfare isn't very easy to handle.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to then be creative and think of ways of creating those fundings. So definitely, we've had a lot of like, animal lovers also who support us, and we have these constant supporters. Then you have to think and plan of different campaigns, where you are kind of able to have fixed monthly donors helping out. And with regards to human welfare, it's always easier because like if there's a need, then you just reach out and somehow that need is met, you
Right.
know or like it could be like someone needs a particular thing, it could be a household thing, it could be a financial help, or it could be anything. So I reach out, and social media has been great because that's, I think, one of the best platforms to reach out, to spread awareness, to get help. So, as I said, I think I've been really grateful and lucky to uh, have that support going on and build on it. So slowly, slowly, you need to build on it. You need to show your passion. You need to show your work. You need to be genuine and sincere. And then there are a lot of people who do come in and support your causes. And it's also trust factor. So people, if they trust you, they're going to be more supportive.
Right. So, what is the story behind the name Bodhisattva?
Okay, so bodhisattva is a word that comes from Buddhism. Okay, so I was doing a course in Buddhism. I was always, fascinated by Buddhism, and I wanted to learn. So when I was doing this course, we've all heard of Buddhahood, but
Right.
Bodhisattva was a new word for me back then. And so I asked my teacher, what does it mean, and she said, it's someone who, is an awakened mind and enlightened mind who's so, he's so compassionate. And he doesn't want, like, basically, he could achieve enlightenment for himself, but he doesn't want that. He wants to be part of the, world, to be able to make a difference and help reduce their suffering and help others also achieve enlightenment. So, as you know, the textbook meaning for it would be an enlightened, awakened mind, motivated by great compassion to help all beings and reduce their suffering. Now, all beings, I mean all sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it is not just animals, humans, all kind of beings that come in my environment. That if I can help them out, I want to help them.
Okay. So, what in the first place encouraged you to study more about Buddhism and get into it?
As I said, since I was a kid, I was kind of inclined towards it somehow. Buddha, and he was just always a figure that made me wanna like kind of follow and learn about what it was. And I never like kind of identified myself with any religion, so I'm not religious,
Okay.
and I don't even want to say that I'm a Buddhist, because then that is something fixed. I just like to follow the good things from a lot of religions or practices, and you have to just keep evolving. So I think, yeah, definitely Buddhism has really helped me understand a lot of life concepts and to kind of be more humble. But that does not mean that I'm a perfect human being. So that's
Right.
why I said I cannot label myself as a Buddhist, because it's, again, it's not something that you can sustain. You have to, it's an ongoing practice, a daily practice, where you have to make an effort. You know, you want to see changes in yourself or your environment, you'll have to make that change. You'll have to make the effort for it. You'll have to have some action towards it. You cannot just be sitting and expecting things to happen. So again, it's an ongoing thing and it's a lifelong thing. So for me, I believe that we all, should try and be the best versions of ourselves. And I've seen those glimpses, so, but to be in that, a state of mind throughout is definitely difficult, because end of the day, I'm a human being, and
Right.
I have circumstances and things that affect me externally, which also, shape my thinking or my perception or my actions. So, but then to be aware and mindful at least, so it helps to be aware that this is how I'm feeling, or this is, what I'm thinking, or these are my intentions. So at least when you think about it and you're aware about it, then you can maybe, change those automated responses or reactions by being
So,
mindful.
so what are the major takeaways or learnings you would say that you would from Buddhism that you would like to share with the listeners?
Um, I think that it's important for all of us to understand that we are not alone here in the world, on earth. There are several other beings and creatures, and we need to coexist. We need to show that compassion. We need to respect other life forms, and to know that even the smallest creatures, have a life form just like us.
Right.
And I think the basic thing is that we all wish to be happy and avoid suffering. So if I think we should be able to reduce the harm, like our lifestyles or our lives are, or the destruction that we cause. I think if we could reduce that, that's a start, to be able to, like, I always say that I want my life to, while I'm living, I want to be able to be as, like, reduce the harm, whether it's to others or the environment. I want to reduce that as much as possible. You cannot, I cannot be a hypocrite and say, okay, you can totally do it, but you can surely reduce the harm, that you're doing to yourself or to others or the environment.
Right.
So I think this is one of the biggest learnings. Also that, we are all interconnected with nature, with the environment. So we need to respect that. Yeah.
Right.
Reduce the destruction. Yeah.
Okay.
Reduce the greed, reduce the destruction, and have a wholesome view,
Right. So just to summarize it, first is living peacefully in coexistence, and then
Yes.
reducing the harm we can cause to ourselves and our fellow beings.
Yes.
So, ma'am, what is that one thing that drives you every morning? What do you look forward to?
Um, I think what drives me every morning is that the hope and the faith in my ability to, be able to change someone's reality or to reduce suffering, so that kind of drives me, that also gives meaning to my life and a purpose to my life. So it is not, I don't know, I mean, it's not totally selfless, because there is a joy that I receive, or it kind of keeps me going, you know what I mean? It gives, as I
Right.
said, it gives my life meaning. So it kind of, wakes me up in the morning and says, hey, let's do something. If not everything, there's something I could do. And maybe even if I could reach out to one soul, be it an animal or a human. So I think that just makes my day, and makes me want to get up every morning. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I think,
Right.
if you don't have a purpose sometimes, or that you don't find those meanings in life, then you can be kind of lost in this world. And the things that are going on, like, it could get you down. So I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on what I can do. How can I make it better? instead of focusing on, oh God, what's going on, and how's this going to change? The world's never going to change. So I also get very
Right.
pessimistic or negative
Mm-hmm.
from time to time. But then you have to kind of pick yourself up and say that no, just focus on what you can do and not what cannot be done.
Right. So as you said, as you mentioned earlier, and so there's a lot of negativity going around, and sometimes it's difficult to us to understand how to deal with it and how to cope up with all the thoughts and the anxiety. So how do you suggest for someone who's having a lot of anxiety nowadays can deal with it?
I mean, it depends. Like as I said, I think I also go through a lot of anxiety from time to time. I think my personality is only like, I easily get overworked or I get hyper or worked up. I think it's very important to not get too, tied up in your emotions and your thoughts and to take one day at a time. That's
Right.
my motto now. I think, you just take one day at a time and not start stressing about, oh, how am I going to, achieve this? How am I going to do this? What's going to happen? And I think I also went through a lot of ups and downs during this lockdown. Whether it was like, oh my God, how are we going to go on with the NGO, or oh my God, how's the world going to go on?
Mm-hmm.
Or when you were watching the news and you saw all this injustice happening or other people suffering, that also causes suffering. That
Right.
also causes a lot of anxiety and depression. You just take one day at a time, reach out to someone, talk about it, um, express yourself, and when you're feeling down, just don't be alone. It's always better. Like for me, I feel express yourself, don't suppress yourself. But then there are a lot of people who are don't feel so free to express.
Right.
So, but I think it's really therapeutic. Also, be around animals. I mean, they really help out. They really reduce your anxiety. They're the best therapist that you could have. And if you feel that you need to seek a therapist, please do that.
Right.
Because it is, as I said, even the strongest of people, strong-minded people are going through anxiety and they're feeling this, so there's no shame to it that, I'm feeling all of this, and you need to be more expressive. So just reach out. I mean, it really helps when you have someone listening to you, or, even just listening. You don't have to give them some advice or, show them some way of how to solve the problem. By just listening and actively listening, I think it just it's also uh, just feels like a relief, like you've got it off your chest.
Right. Right. Right.
So, yeah, I mean, everything, anyways, in life is uncertain, and there are a lot of things that are not in our control. So, we need to also accept that. A lot of times it's very difficult for me to accept that no, these things cannot change. I want to change them, or I want to make things happen.
Right.
But sometimes they're not good. It's not going to happen the way you want it to happen. So, you need to take it one day at a time. Maybe you could set some goals or things that you want to achieve, even if it's daily practices. Like I do chanting, a lot of people could do yoga, meditation. As I said, spending time with animals is the best. I have 3 cats at home, and I'm always like out and about with animals and looking into their welfare. So it kind of keeps me going. It's like you forget about your stuff and then you focus on this.
Right.
But as I said, like if someone has a mental health issue, they need to consult someone and they need to reach out. Don't be shy about it.
Right. Like I would like to share what I'm doing. So in my case, journaling has helped me a lot, jotting down my goals in the morning and then writing how I feel, writing down
Yeah,
what I feel anxious about. So that's helped me.
exactly. When you have it written down, you kind of know exactly, what the feeling is or what the thought is.
Right.
And then the awareness comes as to like how could I, not really get rid of it, or how could I change this, but how could I live with this and
Right.
maybe reduce the you know the stress, that you're the stress that you feel with this feeling or this thought.
Absolutely. So it's like introspection and knowing what you're feeling right now and accepting it
Yeah.
and trying to
Yeah.
change it in a better way.
Also, I think crying is amazing. It's really therapeutic. There are times when I feel low and I feel like crying. I do it,
Right.
and I feel much better after that. So there is no shame in crying. There's no shame in reaching out to people. There's no shame in saying that I am feeling this today. This is how I'm feeling today. Just reach out to your friends, you know.
Right, right, right. Absolutely. So, what is that one thing you wish people could understand better, or maybe learn better to be a better individual?
Um, as I said, it's very important to contemplate on our actions, our thoughts, my intentions. You know, like also like in Buddhism, there's a lot of emphasis on intentions. So it says like whenever you're doing something or you want to do something, say what is my intention behind it? You know, so that itself can kind of give you perspective on whether you should be doing that thing or not. Also, I'm the kind of person I will always do something that I really want to do from my heart. You know,
Right,
so I think it's important for us human beings to know that we can be in control of our minds and our lives. You know, we don't need to be controlled by it. It's difficult, it's not easy, but as I said, it's a daily ongoing effort to want to make that change, whether it's in your life or in your environment. It's important for us to um, have that compassion. As I said earlier, that we're not alone here. Don't be selfish. If there's a way you can reach out to somebody, please reach out. If you could help somebody, if you're in a position to help someone, please do that. Don't be selfish. Don't be self-centered. We're all in this together,
right,
and and I think this whole community service and that whole community attitude, we need to instill that in us. You know, like also I tell a lot of people like we cannot sit and complain about the things that are, oh, our government is like this and the world is like this. I think it's important for us to step in and also make an effort to maybe make those things better. So for me, it was like I was born and brought up in Pune, and I was like, okay, if I want to make a change, where do I start? So I said, let me start with my city and do whatever I can in my capacity, in my capability for the city, for my environment, for my area, and also inspire other people to do the same. So it's like definitely, it's like a lot of people maybe who were not so animal friendly or now are, like a lot of my friends. So I think our actions and our lifestyle can also inspire a lot of other people. But most importantly, we need to not be part of that superficial world where we think all these materialistic things are going to make us happy.
right,
We need to seek our own happiness. Our happiness is not going to come. We need to work on this together. As a community, as a whole. We don't need to. The whole thing of what's going on now is the division and the religious conversations and issues that are going on. I think if you work together, I think we can achieve so much. And like when I look at India, I look at the population and look at all the intelligent minds that we have here. There's so much we can achieve if we just let go of all this rubbish and this garbage in our head or in our hearts. So I think, yeah, we need to reduce our greed. We need to be more compassionate. We need to be more patient, more tolerant, and we need to look inside and we need to try and evolve and live better, be better, and do better.
right.
Because we can, so we should.
Beautiful. So, ma'am, what is that one message for all the frontline workers, be it the social workers, doctors, and police stationed out there on the front line that you would like to give?
Um, I think the frontline workers, I mean, we really need to respect them and value them. And I think there are a lot of, I think this whole pandemic crisis is going to make us value them more, and we do value them
Right,
more now. And we also need to do more for our healthcare services. They're doing an incredible job. I mean, think about it, because if you were a doctor, like I had this conversation with a lot of my friends, I said, you know if I was a doctor and I had to go and put myself at risk and my family at risk, would I be able to do it? So you have to put yourself in those, their shoes and think that this is so difficult. It's such a difficult thing, because imagine when we were sitting at home and hearing the news and listening to the news, it was always that fear and anxiety. And there was so much fear and anxiety just sitting at home. These people were right there watching it daily and going through hell. I mean, it's been really
Right.
difficult for them to be doing their work. Like, as you said, those PPEs, like, it's so difficult to be in that PPE and
Right.
work for those 6 hours. And also the fact that you are working in such a traumatic, zone, and then you don't even have your support system. Like, you
Mhm.
cannot go back to your family. You cannot interact with your friends. You could only probably call. So it's amazing how these people have already, done so much and are putting up with this. Like, I was afraid that at some point maybe the doctors will be like, I'm sorry, we don't want to do this.
Right.
Why should we put ourselves in trouble for you? And also initially when they didn't have all the protective gears or everything that they required initially, when it was so stressful and there was so much fear, everywhere. So for them to step up and do this for the benefit of humanity and the benefit of others, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. Like, imagine, would you be able to go right now in a hospital and work with people who you know for sure are COVID, positive, and to watching that every day? You're watching so
Right.
many people die. It's
Mhm.
emotionally so exhausting. So hats off to them. I really salute all the frontline workers, even the police. They're doing a great job, and I'm amazed at what we've been able to achieve. I think the results now, even the death rate has gone down, the recovery rate has gone up. So I'm really, really proud of the things going on in my country, the way they are handling it. But then again, it's been really stressful for the frontline workers, and we have to give them that due. We have to.
Right. Absolutely. Like I was reading yesterday or a day before that, some of the tier 2 or 3 doctors are overworked and they are not even paid what they deserve. So,
Yeah.
and as you
those
said,
those things like really upset you, because
right,
it's like these people are the most important right now, and you should be giving them everything that they require, everything that they need, because they're putting themselves at risk for you.
right,
So I think that thing was, yeah, it's still a little sad that we're not able to give them that that comfort or that security that they have everything they need. And also, as you said, that there are a lot of people not getting their money,
right,
their salaries. So that's really sad. I mean, that's something that we all need to question our government about.
right. And as you said, the mental pressure there in not being able to meet their families and working in such
Yeah.
traumatic condition, they really need a huge
Yeah,
thank
because
you from the
I
bottom of
sitting
our
at home,
hearts.
as I said, there was so much mental pressure just sitting at home.
Right.
So imagine being a doctor or a nurse or a cleaner. There are so many people who have to risk their lives and go and clean, or the people dealing with garbage. Even in like Dharavi and all, there are
Mhm.
sanitization workers who are going there and working. They're all risking their lives.
Absolutely. So, like you said, we're in this together and we'll get through this together.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the time. I really appreciate it. It was lovely talking to
Thank you
you.
so much for having me, and I hope we can all come together and make a better world or a better earth. And it starts with us. I think we need to um, be better versions of ourselves, and that will reflect in others and in our environment.
Right, being the change we want to see.
Yes.